What's going on, good people? How's everybody doing? I hope you guys are enjoying your Ramadan. To all my Muslim brothers and sisters out there. As you all know, it's Ramadan for me as well, so we won't be having so much tutorials this month. But I just thought a lot of people actually requested for this particular one, the Kobe um, uh, kinetic uh, animation, so to speak. I just thought I would do a little bit of a breakdown of how I came up with this idea and how I was able to execute it. So let me just stop talking and let's dive into it and get started. Um, yeah, so you can pretty much see the concept. It's just very simple. What my thought process was, Kobe Bryant, of obviously, you guys know the famous basketballer RIP, and so I just thought using his name and him being recognized with basketball so much, I just thought the shape of a basketball is circle, right? And his name Kobe, how am I able to use his name and tie it together with what he's known for? So that was really how this concept came about. And then I went to Illustrator. I have my file open up here. You can see. All I just did was how I wrote out the Kobe name as a text, and I kind of had them in each layers. So for the ball, I just got a reference image of an actual basketball, and I kind of just reshaped it and redesigned it inside of Illustrator, as you can see. And I just thought, like, okay, just having the ball, Kobe, that's not enough. How can I make this interesting? Because as I'm thinking of this, I'm already thinking of animation at the same time. So doing all that, the animation that kept playing in my head was, how can I make this ball kind of, I want it to have this feel of Kobe is these characters and he's playing the basketball. And so the idea of having a um, an actual net, basketball net, where the ball can actually be dunked, what that was really how that came about. So I downloaded the reference image and I just kind of auto trace it, and the net shape, just kind of figured all that out, got the vector layer. And once I got all that situated, and as for the colors, I just downloaded one of Kobe's image. He's from the Lakers, so I kind of just picked out the yellow, the purple, as you can see. So that was really how I kind of the colors came about. So moving forward, so I just have all the letters in different layers, as you can see, so it will be easier for me to animate in After Effects. And I also did a separation of the 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 the, the net as well, just so like I said, I already had my animation playing in my head. Like, when the ball is dunking, I want to make sure everything is moving at the same time. I'm not much of a basketballer, but for those of you, you get the drill. But anyways, save this up, and then I go on to Adobe After Effects, where this is the finished animation for those of you that have not seen it. And so how did I really get started? Like I said, you want to make sure that you have your animation played out in your head however you want to execute it, because you don't want to be that artist that not until you're on the computer or on your software is when you're actually starting to, like, oh man, what do I do? Fine, I get it, things can come up while you're working, because I'll be honest with you, for like the trails, the liquid trails, it wasn't part of the idea before. It was something that came up while I was animating. I just thought after I finished it without the liquid, I just thought, it's cool, but it needs a little bit of a spark. So that was how that came up about. And you see the stars here as well. I just thought, like, kind of like Looney Tunes, kind of like Space Jam kind of vibe. Like when they dunk, you see like stars in their head. So that was really my idea with these stars coming out of, after the ball, dunks into the net. So yeah, let me see. So uh let us disable the stars, leave the E, the rim is there. Okay, so we have a concept here all drawn out. Now we want to give life to this thing. So I went ahead, like, okay, I know I want to have my ball kind of start, like, kind of have it a life of its own. And if you notice here that I didn't really do, because before I was gonna do some sort of anticipation where the ball, kind of like folds itself in because it wants to build that anticipation. But then I was like, wait a minute, basketballs actually don't, they don't like, they're like really solid rock balls that bounces. Although you can always have that cartoon effect to it where you make things kind of exaggerated. But I thought of that, I was doing that earlier, but I was just like, you know what, I wanted to have a little bit of realism to it. So that was why I kind of took out that. So that's why you don't see that there's any sort of anticipation when the ball gets up. So what you just have to do, I mean, I'm sure you guys know how to in After Effects. So I just keyframe my position, moving the ball from, as you can see, from this position here, because I know that I want my ball to bounce from the ground here, bounce to B, use B as a support. Then once it touches here, it comes this way. Then I'm gonna have my K kind of like push back, so acting as if is the one tossing the ball. So that was kind of like the idea. So I had like keyframe scale and position. And the reason why I keyframed my scale as well was I didn't want my ball to keep um the same scale while it's up in the air. I want it to have this kind of fluid sort of I just want it to have a little bit of that cartoony feel to it. So that was why I added the scale to it. And also, if I didn't add the scale, um kind of the ball will be too big when it's up in the air, and it just kind of will take out from the animation. So you see, the position moves from point A, bounces off of B, and then comes back. And as you can see, my ball starts to kind of shrink as it hits B. So it goes along like that. And if you're wondering how I was able to have B kind of wiggle, kind of like have that bouncy effect, so all you just have to do is, if you go to B, let me show you all my. What you want to do is, under any shape layers, you're able to you're able to keyframe their paths. So what their path does is, let me start a new composition here. I just want to show you guys real quick. Let's say I have letter B. Okay, let's still use B, and let's scale it up real big. So you have your letter B here. Now let us change it to, so now you want to create shapes from text. So now you can see B outline. So now that you've created this B as a shape layer, it's no more your text. So with the shape layer, you want to go down, go to content, scroll down on B like that. You can see it does have its path now. Another easy way to get your path is you can just come here and type path. It's gonna bring out all the paths. So now, the reason why you have more than one path here is because each of these is gonna be its own path. So this is one part, this is another part, and this is, the entire B is another part. So let us keyframe the part here and move to the next thing in your timeline. So now you can move your part however it is that you want it. You can, you know, uh, move it like this. So if I play back, you can see that. And if I bring back where, so that's really what I did there. So what I did was I just had my path here. I keyframed so that when the ball hits the B at that particular position, it's kind of just kind of, I cannot give it that wobbly. I kind of make it wobbly. So the position of the part of B is here. Then when it goes in, it shrinks in, and then when the ball leaves, it comes out. You kind of exaggerate it a little bit, and I just had it going back and forth like that until it gets to a position where it rests. So and for K, it's pretty much the same thing. If I take um if I take a K, let us delete B here. If I take a K and I scale it up, actually that might be too big. Okay, and I change it to go to create shape from text. So now let us type in paths. For K, let us type in paths to bring up it paths. So now let us keyframe right there, go to the middle. So what I did, assuming this was the K from my actual thing, so if the ball is coming this way, I had K kind of like stretched out and just keyframed it to in a way where it kind of like just goes boom, boom, kind of like that kind of feel. So it's really all I'm just doing in this in this animation is just keyframing my path to kind of give that dynamic to that fluidity to my car sorry, to my letters. And if you notice it, it's kind of also giving some sort of personality to the character. So you can see K is kind of like already anticipating, like, oh, once the ball comes, I'm ready to, like, to toss it. So that's it with that. So the ball goes and kick hits it, and the ball now starts to travel up in the air. And while it's traveling, I had a little bit of struggle when it came to this part because I'll be honest, I was kind of thinking like, should I just have E just jump up, like, it's kind of like when a three-pointer uh, tosses the ball, up in the air, and before the ball actually, goes into the court, you want to have that. I don't know. I'm not so good with basketball, but you want to have someone like Kobe who sees the ball up in the air and just jump right in mid-air, catches the ball and kind of like dunks it. So that was kind of like the idea here. So I kept thinking like, should I have E just jump up and like slam dunk it, or should I have he jump up and get some sort of support from B, which is what I eventually went for. So I decided to have E bounce off of B, and you get the idea here. So because E is bouncing off of B, so the position where there's like an impact, I had to animate the part of B to kind of shrink just that part where E meets B collapses, and to give that wibbly effect just like I did from the beginning here for B. So I repeated the same thing when E. And also, one thing I failed to mention is when E was about to jump up, I kind of gave it a little bit of anticipation, kind of like a basketballer. So, before they can actually, you can see basketballers just jump like that. They have to build an anticipation because then you're able to like carry your whole weight. So the one like, it goes, it goes down. You see the anticipation out. So it collapses a little bit, then jumps up, then bounces off of B while the ball is in mid-head, you know, and then it goes like that, and meets the ball in the air, and now we want to like slam dunk it. So it goes like that. So all I'm doing here is just I keyframe the position. Where is he here? All I did here is keyframe the position of E and just play with the paths, because obviously I know that I want to have the path to like give it some more character. So I move the path, then E goes up like that to kind of meet the ball in mid-air, mind you, in mid-air, and then they both fall onto the onto the basket, and then E falls. So I added some sort of secondary, so E, when he slams on with the ball, so it doesn't just fall like he knows what he's about to do. So because if you really study the way basketball is, when they slam dunk, by the time they fall they almost don't get their balance. So that was kind of like what happened here. So there was a lot of thought that I put into this, if I'm being honest, like how does real life basketballers react when they're playing ball, so that was kind of like the idea with this. So when he meets B, like he falls back like bomb, then goes back to his position. And when the ball comes into the ball sorry into the net, you can see something again to make your animation interesting. I made sure that the entire basketball, the board, that I made sure that it showed that there's some sort of like weight on the front. So you can see from the back here, the back here raises up a little bit because there's already weight in front. So the back will obviously come up. So that's kind of like the idea here. So it goes up. Then I added some deformation to the basketball net to make it feel real, because obviously a bigger size ball is going into this net. So what I did here with the net is, what's the net right here? So what I did with the net is I just added um I just added the puppet tool. Puppet tool would save your life with little details like this. Sorry, I've been talking too much. Got it. How? Mm, I'm Vic. Yeah, Puppet 2 will save your life so much. So I just added Puppet 2 to kind of make it sort of like elastic, not really elastic, but to make it feel like a something is going through it. And obviously as the ball is going, it follows that motion. Then when it comes back, then it kind of like wobbles. And that's really what I did here. So you can see I pulled it down and it goes up, and it's still trying to like find its balance, while the ball falls. And if you see for the ball as well, in this situation, I kind of added kind of like a little bit of a squash to it to give that cartoon feel. So the ball bounces, like goes bam, and then, and mind you, you see he at the same time he's still trying to get his balance. So what I think I was doing here really was just like making it sort of chaotic, but at the same time interesting, and at the same time fun. Like, oh my god, this is crazy, just kind of like how you will actually see it in a real scenario when people are playing basketball. So that's kind of like the idea here. And for the ball going back to its its starting position, my thought process there was, wait a minute, I want this to be a loop animation. I want it to start somewhere, and when it ends, I don't want any jarring. I just want it to like start from exactly where it starts from. So what I did is I just thought, since the ball starts from here, so why not, when the ball lands, it go back to his first position again, and it continues to do the same thing. So, and that's really how I got my loops, just so in case you were wondering. So all that aside, now let us add the little like the trail and the stars. So for the stars, let's see. For the stars, as you can see, the stars starts to like once the ball comes in, boom, boom, the stars like they come out. So what you want to do here, or what I did here, let me open up the stars. As you can see, it was just animation of a star shape and just animating the position and the scale. So it starts small, and as it's moving, it's getting bigger, and when it gets to like the middle, it starts to get smaller again. So after I did that one, then I started adding different variations, and I made sure that they didn't start at the same time to give some sort of randomness to it. So that's really what I did for the stars. As you can see, like boom, 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 boom. You got it? So yeah, that's that with the stars. And finally, for the liquid, trail, this one is a little bit tricky. So lately I've been learning hand drawn animation, which is how animation really started. Traditional animation where artists will actually draw every single frame, and when you play back, it becomes an animation. You know what? Funny story. When I was younger, I remember this boy called Dominic. Dominic, if you ever see this video, I'll never forget you. If I'm so this guy, it will draw like characters, like let's say Spider-Man, and it will draw them in different pages. He used to have these small notes, and he would draw, like different moves. So then he will call me like, hey, see. Then it will kind of flip the pages. Then you see how all the characters are kind of like moving. At that time, I had no idea that guy was doing animation. Isn't that crazy? And I wasn't even in secondary school. I wasn't in high school yet for my American friends. So that's how we were. I don't know. We were probably like 9 or 10, like really young, and this guy was already creating all this crazy stuff. I had no idea this guy was doing frame by frame animation. So wherever you are, dude. So for the trail, like I said, I started learning that lately. So it's kind of gonna be a topic of its own if I'm being honest. But what I did essentially with this particular one, yes, if you were wondering, every single frame was hand drawn, and yeah, every single frame. So what I did is without the trail, I exported this full animation after I was done with the animation, right? Like this. I exported it and I took it to Photoshop. So inside Photoshop, let's see. I'm going to open Photoshop real quick. So with this now, just so you didn't know, Photoshop actually does have animation, if you were wondering. We have a layer here. I'm just going to show you 1 or 2 frames so you know how this works. So with Photoshop, when you have your video timeline, you have your video and you want to lay an animation over it. So what you can do is you can create a new video group, which I will do here. I totally forgot which one it is. Please don't crucify me. Oh, that's Onion Skin. Okay, so this button right here, you've created a new video group. If you don't have this panel in your own Photoshop, the name of the plugin is called AnimDesign 2. It's a free plugin for Photoshop for those of you that want to do animation inside of Photoshop. So look for it online. I found my one online from an artist that was talking about it. It's hopefully still free at the time of this recording. But yeah, so I click on that, it creates a new video timeline. Okay, now that I've created a new video layer, so now we want to start creating uh we want to start creating our drawing over our video, but then we have to create um different layers where we'll be able to like draw our actual drawing. Then that all together becomes a video of its own that can play on over our actual video. So for example, if we go to where the ball hits that right there, let us move this here and let us draw. Then we move to the, if you notice it, there's no more our what's it called, our splash doesn't show on the next frame. And as you can see, I also can paint. The reason why that is happening is I need a new frame that I can draw on. So to create a new frame, you can either create ones or twos. The difference between ones or twos is, say for example, with like traditional animation, prefer to go um people prefer to do 12 frames per second instead of 24. So if you were doing 24 and you want your animation to be in 12 frames per second, so you can do twos, so that your each of the frame will cover 2 frames. So you have 24 frames. So if you're drawing if you're having one pose on 2 frames each, that will give you 12. And if you're doing ones, you might as well just do 12 frames per second, so that way you can draw on each of the frame. So in this instance, because I have 12 frames per second, I can do ones, so that my playback will be 12 frames per second. So yeah, let us create. I created a new frame now. So if we go back, you see that my what's it called, my splash is there, but if I move to the next frame, I don't see a splash. So now I can now start drawing to my next frame. And one other thing I wanted to share with you guys, there's something called onion skin. So what onion skin does for you is it helps you so that you're able to see what your previous frame was. So if I go ahead and turn on onion skin right here, as you can see, this was my previous frame. Do you see what I drew previously? So what I drew previously, now it can show you move forward and backwards, so just depending on what you want. So now I don't have any I can just draw, go move forward, create a new frame, you know move forward, create another new frame. So I'm just showing you how this sort of works. So now if I turn off the onion skin and I play back, do you see that? So the animation plays back. So you see that, like, you know. So anyways, that was really what I did, and I just started doing all my drawings over the ball, as the impact between the ball and B, and when the ball hits K. As you can see, if I go to After Effects here, uh if I turn on the layer, so all these parts where where the ball hit, I had to do all that hand drawing it. So I guess, like I said, that's one thing that I feel like should be a topic of its own, where we can actually do something small, frame by frame. So yeah, that was really it. I hope this breakdown was very helpful. If there's something that you still feel like I didn't really touch on, a tutorial like this is kind of hard for me to start from the beginning, right how I created it, because it's just gonna be hard. There's a lot of keyframes, there's a lot of thought that was put into it, but I'm glad I was able to like kind of talk through it, so you can get my thought process. So if you're ever thinking to create an animation like this is really how you can go about it. And and if you can always take it further however your creativity helps you. So yeah, that was it. And I hope you guys get something from this. If you have any question, feel free. You know the drill. Send me a DM or put your comment, and I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao.